Players that you can recognize from just their first name or just by a nickname don't need much of an introduction, but Eck had 197 wins, 390 saves in his Hall of Fame career. You can watch the entire interview on the F5 Sports YouTube channel, but here's a little bit of our conversation with Hall of Famer Dennis Eckersley.
Hey, Eck, good to see you again, man. It's been a while. How's everything going?
Very good, very good. This is a sign of the times, this whole deal anyway, right?
Well, I assume that you're just a veteran of this. You're a broadcaster. You know how all this stuff works, right?
Yeah, the last 4 months is how it's been going. You know how it is everywhere we've been doing this.
Only took us about 10 minutes to get it set up this morning, but
Yeah.
we're good to go. So you're out in California now, getting ready to head back east to Boston to rejoin Ness and being quite the grandfather now. Is that it?
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I mean, I was out here in the off season to begin with, and baseball stopped in March, and I was on my way to go to spring training. So the timing was bad. Got to Boston, everything was shut down, and you know the rest. And here we are trying to start this season, which is, to me, is going to a feat in itself as we speak.
Yeah, it is going to be a challenge. What have you heard about what your network is doing, the New England Sports Network, and what's going on there?
Well, they decided to just go remotely. You know, don't even go to the ballpark. Every team's different.
Yeah.
But we're going strictly from the studio, whether it's home or away. So
really?
Yeah, so it's fairly simple. I don't know how good it's going to be, you know, but we'll have three in a booth, so we'll have a little bit more energy, I hope.
Well, I don't know about you, but I walked away a lot of nights feeling it wasn't very good anyway. So.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Are you supposed to do all 60?
Yeah, I guess. I normally wouldn't do them all. In fact, you know, I was only scheduled to do less than half. But because the short schedule, you know, you just work hard for 2 months and go from there. Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting for sure. And it's like you said, it's still really up in the air right now. You and I have talked previously about what's going on. We stay in touch. Our birthdays are a day apart, so we always make sure to make that an annual holiday. But we talked a little bit about the physical side of baseball and about the mental side of baseball, and we'll jump into it. I told you what I've been doing with pitchLogic and all the analytics and stuff. And you're old school like I am. You're a year older than me. But Hall of Famer says it all about you. So we want to listen to everything you've got to say. 197 wins, 390 saves. Mind-blowing. Which one did you enjoy more?
I'll tell you what, if you're a good starting pitcher, it's probably the greatest job in the history of the world, right? Especially nowadays, if you make $30 million a year. I mean, not everybody, but, you know, $1 million a start, that's not too tough. But, you know what? Yeah, but it's almost like, think about it, once every 5 days, once a week. I mean, if you're good, you're feeling good, and the pressure's only on one day. But at the same time, I enjoyed relieving because I felt like I was an everyday player. And, you know, you come to the ballpark nervous, ready to go, and, you know, you're alive. So I enjoyed that more. And then you only go one inning and everybody shakes your hand. It's a beautiful thing, you know.
Life is good. The crowd's going crazy.
Like, you know, and then that starting pitcher is long forgotten, right? You know, and you got the win. Who cares? I got the save, you know.
High fives everywhere.
Right.
It's a beautiful thing. You had a quote that I read that I really liked. It said, "I had a good run. I had some magic that was with me for a long time. So I know that I was real lucky not to have my arm fall off, for one thing. And to make it this long physically is tough." Why do you think you did? 23 years is a really long time. Why do you think you did?
You know, something, I don't think a lot of people thought that I would last that long when they saw me pitch early on when I was in Cleveland, first couple of years, you know, because of my delivery. But once ago, if you don't get hurt, I mean, I've had arm trouble like we all have, you know, tendonitis and this and that, but nothing's, you know, that they had to do surgery. So I was really fortunate. But, you know, I guess when it comes right down to it, it's mechanics. It may look funky, you know what I mean? I dropped down a little bit, but to me, I was throwing the ball right over the top because I was on top of the ball, but my body was sideways. So anyway, I was still fortunate to have good health to play as long as I did. But
that's really interesting, though, that you say you were on top of the ball, because most people think that you were a side armor or a slinger.
Right.
Yeah, you say you still got on top of the ball.
Yeah, you know, it looks like when I'm throwing, I'm underneath it. But you slow it down, my arm is in, like, it's just slanted. my arm's still at my ear almost, you know. It wasn't like I was I forget who am I thinking of with Kansas City, took Quisenberry or something.
Yeah.
I mean, he's underneath, you know, guys scraping the ground with their knuckles. That wasn't me.
No, but he was more of a submariner. He had, by the way, one of my favorite all-time lines. They asked him why he threw from down there, and he said that if God intended us to be pitchers, we'd walk like this. And he said, we don't. We walk like this. I'm going to throw from down there.
So that plays into, you know, you last longer, I guess, down there. But, you know, it's not a natural thing anyway to pitch. And if you don't get used the right way, which I did when I got to the bullpen, right?
Yeah.
You know, the days of going 2-3 innings like Gossage and Fingers and all that, that doesn't work. I mean, to have longevity like that, you just don't last.
Yeah.
And so that's why one inning, I fell into it, you know, the timing of all this. And so that's part of being fortunate.
Well, that kind of started, too, around the time that you and I played together with the Cubs in '85. We had all 5 starters get hurt. You got hurt some that year. I was a long man and doing a little bit of everything out of the bullpen, starting some. And Dallas really started talking about using you a little bit as a reliever, didn't he? Wasn't it back then?
I don't know. They might have. They sure did after I started doing good. They said, yeah, we were going to do it. Yeah, sure you were going to do it. Yeah. But
so,
you know, not their fault. Not their fault, really. I just got lucky that I was bad in '86, and they got rid of me in '87. They had no idea who they were getting rid of. You know, because you think about Larry, that's when I got sober, and that's when it all turned around. So who would have known that?
Yeah. Well, that's a life circumstance that happened. But somebody still had to have the idea. So who really had the original idea? Was it Tony?
He'd like to think so too. I think we all, we all fell into it because when I got there at the end of spring training, all the starters were there. I wasn't going to crack the rotation, so I just went to the bullpen and did what I had to do. And that's like you said, anything. Yeah. You know, I was basically setting up, but I would go 4 or 5 innings too, up until Jay Howell got hurt. If you remember that guy,
right?
And then I took over. So that had to happen too. You know, Jay Howell, it's all opportunity when you come right down to it. It's just life, and you take advantage of it.
Right place at the right time. You know, I had that early in my career with the Brewers. The leg kick is the other part of the delivery that's unusual. You're a California guy, grew up in Fremont. Is that where the leg kick came from?
Oh, without a doubt. You know, Juan Marichal, I was a San Francisco Giant fan. Juan Marichal, if anybody, a lot of people don't know him. It's a long time ago. Because I just think everybody knows who Juan Marichal is. But he's in the Hall of Fame. And his classic leg kick, you know, as high as it could be. So when I was like 8 years old, I was kicking my leg up. I mean, I think that's why I developed so quick. Next thing you know, I was throwing the ball harder than everybody else because I was using my legs. And that's what it's all about anyway, right? It's getting the most. You're like a bullet or a gun firing. Just like Nolan Ryan, you know, he used to coil almost.
Yeah.
And come out of that. But anyway, Juan Marichal leg kicks, what I was all about.
And you mentioned the legs, and it's kind of unusual because training habits have changed so much these days. But you were a runner for a long time. Yeah. You were a big-time runner. Yeah,
I was. In fact, I ran even when I was relieving. I ran more when I relieved than I did when I started, you know. And you really didn't need to do that. And the whole thing about that was confidence.
Yeah.
Because when I ran, I really felt like I had an edge mentally because, like, I'm working so hard. I deserve it. And that's half the battle, don't you think? When you take the mound, it's all about confidence. And that worked for me. It settled me in, you know.
There are those that would say you don't suffer from a lack of confidence.
Well, that's just a facade. It truly is. I mean, I've always been into, you know, body language, how you take the mound. I mean, there's a lot to be said for that, but you still got to have good stuff. I mean, you can't act like a Superman when you're throwing salad, you know. You know. So, but I think there's a lot to that, you know, about mound presence, and you can't let the other guy think that you're not on top of your game. And, you know, I was I was demonstrative to say the least, but it wasn't always like that. I mean, before it was fashionable to be demonstrative, you were a guy that guys hated playing against.
love playing with. As soon as you were around you on the same team, you love being around you. You and I faced each other. It was 75 to 77 with Cleveland, and then 78 to 84 with Boston. So I don't even know. Did we ever face each other? Did we ever pitch against each other?
I can't. Maybe we must have. I don't remember.
I'm sure one night about 3 a.m. in Chicago, we talked about whether we did or not. But,
yeah.
but
No, I don't remember.
We must have. Except in the American League at the time with the DH, you didn't really think about who the pitcher was that much.
Not really. Although you knew if you went against, the time, like I threw a no-no against Frank Tanana, and I always I give him credit for it, because when you're in it pitching against a good pitcher, you're so focused from the get-go. You can't give up anything, and that makes you a better pitcher.
Yeah. So the mental side of things, you told me one time, and I'll never forget this: fear of failure.
Yeah,
is really what drove you a lot.
I know, and that sometimes it paralyzes guys. There's always some fear out there. I don't care if all players are honest, right? Because you don't want to mess it up, especially as a closer. You have a bad game, it affects everybody. You have no time to come back from it. But so that failure is right there every time you take the mound. But that, to me, that's where you get motivation from. I mean, it's like being live on TV or something. You can't, there's a chance you can mess up right here. And so that gets your attention, and you're as alive as you can be. And some people just crumble, but that makes some guys as better than they can be.
Okay, so it's like when you're doing your TV work with the Red Sox, we're going to tape this open. Oops, we screwed up the tape. We got to do it live at 7:03.
Yeah.
You know how
guys are, right? Everybody goes, "Oh no, we might have to do it live," right? And to be honest with you, that's what it's all about. Live is where it's at. Even though you get all nervous and stuff, that's when you're at your best. That's how I think about it. But it's like when you do an open and it's measured. And that wasn't right. Let's try that again. It's like acting. It's so fake. You know what I mean? Live is live, man.
And let's get after it.
Yeah,
I agree with you 100%. The thing about being on the field and the adrenaline and the liveness of that, it's going to be interesting to see what it's like with these games with no fans in the stands, and how much guys are able to get themselves to that extra 10, 15, 20%, whatever it might be, that you get from the crowd that you play off a little bit.
Oh, I was all about that. I was all about that energy. I mean, really was. And especially the older you got. I used to walk off the mound sometimes having made like 3 pitches on the corner, and the crowd was loud, and I was as nervous as I could be, and I was always nervous. And I almost like walked off the field like in awe, saying, "Oh, how did I do that?" You know what I mean? Because I was so focused. The crowd made me just juice to the gills, not literally, but, and I just saw Markakis say something, the guy with Atlanta. Today, he opted out as we speak. Yeah, and he was talking about how a baseball without a crowd is not baseball. And we're going to watch this without baseball, and I personally think it takes up so much away. I love baseball so much, and I'll watch it anyway, but to me, it's a big deal not having it.
Well, that's interesting. Did you imagine yourself back in the 70s and 80s as a baseball lifer? Did you feel back then you loved the game so much you would stay around it your entire lifetime?
Yeah. We talk about crowds in the stands, and I'm talking about getting, pumped up. Well, I played in Cleveland, as you did. Remember? There's like 5,000 people. There may as well have been nobody there. But that's when I was trying to become a big league player.
Yeah.
It didn't matter to me. I was so, immersed in trying to, make it, establish myself. So it's a different part of my career when I went to the bullpen and needed that energy,
And that's the other thing, too, about being a starting pitcher is there's a certain amount of selfishness to it.
Oh, yeah. It's your day, right? Yeah. It's totally your day.
Clubhouse is your music.
Yes. It's almost like I can't remember doing it. It was so long ago because I really made a name for myself being a reliever. So some of my memory is fading. I just remember, as long as we play, it's funny, you had a lot of great games, but the ones that always last are the bad ones.
Yeah.
And and somebody, you tell somebody, they think you're crazy, but it lasts forever, especially Kurt Gibson.
Who?
Yeah.
Okay. So a month after that happens, and we're going to try to mix in some clips of your delivery and stuff so that we can see. And I'm going to try to promise you we won't use that one. I can't swear to it, but I'll try to promise you.
Okay? Yeah, that's just a hanging backdoor breaking ball.
You've seen it before?
Yeah, about 1,000 times.
So about a month after that happened, I gave it some time to calm down, and I called you up, and I said, Denny, it's Lala. And you said, first thing you said was, where was that pitch?
It's middle. Oh, yeah.
Well, at the time, we thought it wasn't a bad pitch, but he was sitting on that. Turns out that he was sitting on that for about 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah. So, they gave credit to that scout. Mel Didier is his name. Yeah. I know everything about it. They told me that they had it all. In this day and age, they know everything that you do. Yeah. So that plays to, you got to mix it up. You can't have a pattern, right? And I never thought I had a pattern before. First of all, I never went 3-2 on anybody.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, this guy's saying, hey, he likes to throw backdoor breaking ball 3-2. Man, you must have scouted every game I threw. I mean, how many times did I do that? Once? Seriously.
It was a pattern.
Yeah. I know. That's a pattern.
So, all right. So with the advance of the scouting and everything, where guys do see every at-bat and they can get, I'm going to face Eckersley today, I know, so I'm going to watch 2 hours of video of him throwing. How has that changed the game? Huh?
I feel stupid because the way they do everything now to the nth degree, and then what we did. And we thought we were innovative when I played with the A's. Remember, the A's were the start of that sort of thing? And we aren't even close to what happened. We used to have a coach, go pitch by pitch after the game, and he'd sit, and everybody's coming out of the shower, and he would start the process of going back over the game. He'd sit there, and I'd say, tell me when you get to the 9th inning, so I could see where my pitches were. I mean, that was the extent of it. Unless you're going bad, you never touch video. That's how it was before, don't you think? I mean,
well, I think that's the way it was before. Yeah, it's not the way that it is now. And I've been sending you some of the pitch-logic stuff and catching you up on some of the information. And we both admit that we're rather old school. It's just a different way of doing it. What I found, Eck, is that a lot of the stuff guys are talking about today is the same stuff we talked about. They just talk about it differently.
Yeah, I just wish I knew the lingo. I mean, I'm paying attention, obviously, to the spin rates, and I wanted an answer to how guys get away with a fastball that's 90 miles an hour, right? And guys swing through it, and I was like, it's like, how did they swing through that? And it's it's because of the spin rate on the fastball.
Yeah.
Koji Uehara, the guy that pitched for the Red Sox, who had an incredible couple of years, remember? Yeah. He got away with fastballs, 88-mile-an-hour fastball right down the middle almost, and they swing right through it. Obviously, he set that stuff up, and he had a good split. But that fastball sort of jumped, I guess, stayed on the same plane. I don't know.
It didn't sink as much.
No.
Gravity didn't make it sink as much.
Right. So hooray for velocity. I mean, how do you get better spin rate?
And hooray for better spin rates, better backspin that keeps it on a higher plane for a longer time.
Well, show me how to do that.
That's what they're learning how to do. And it seriously is what they're learning how to do. But the other thing is that they're learning how to quantify every single pitch that they make, and so they can study every single one. When you threw a bullpen, it was, that looked pretty good. Do that again, right?
Yeah. I just wish that pitching was like golfing, but you can't. You can't keep swinging 1,000 times, right? You can only throw the ball in practice, right? So many times, because if you told me how to hold my slider better, because I could see the pitch itself, and I could throw it all day long, I'll find a release point sooner or later, right? I mean, so you're trying to make these adjustments quick, because they'll tell you during the game, right? About, hey, you're not there, you're not this, you're not that. And then it becomes mechanical. And you know how it is. You've got to be mentally fluid, right? It's like, to me, I can't be a robot. It's like dancing, man. I got to kick and go.
You gotta be you. I had a pitching coach one time. I'm warming up, and I think it was against the Red Sox actually that I was going out to face, and I'm 10 minutes away from facing Rice and Lynn and everybody else, and this guy says, "It looks to me like your elbow's about a half-inch low."
Everybody told me every time I throw a slider that was flat, you got to get your elbow up. Well, I said, I'm trying to get it up. You know what I mean? Sometimes it just doesn't get there.
Well, you talked about your balance though, and about being forward and slinging out of there, which means you're hiding the ball better too.
Yeah, but then they talk about, even though I was on the side a little bit, they talk about being behind the ball, first of all, right? You have to be behind the ball. And a lot of guys talk about standing tall. Well, in a way, I could think standing tall and still go to the side, you know?
Yeah.
And because you got to be behind the ball and on top of it, you know, that thinking. And I don't know. Everybody has a different trigger. You know, that's why everybody's so unique in their own way.
Well, we kind of try to the habit always was mold everybody kind of the same way. And we've realized that that's become a lot different, and everybody's got individual patterns and uniqueness that makes them special. Did you throw across your body much? Was your landing spot much across your body?
I don't think so. Sometimes I recoil too soon because I was trying to throw too hard, right?
Okay.
I mean, the biggest thing is finish. Right. I mean, I finish so I don't recoil, because every time you try to throw too hard, you kind of jump at it. Right. And then the biggest thing is open front side, and then there's no power left. But, you know, because you get excited.
Fast, yeah.
Right. You get excited and the front side opens up. Right. And you know something, you could go in the bullpen before the game or relieving or starting, and everything's on time because you're calm and cool. As soon as you get on the mound, you start jumping because you're excited. And that's what is the difference between guys that can throw on the side, and as soon as they get on the mound, they just fall apart. They get too excited.
What was your velocity like back in the day when you were going good, both as a starter and as a reliever?
Well, I'd like to think when I was a kid, because I came up at 20, I thought I was throwing at least 95, but that gun didn't say it. The guns are different.
Meter?
Huh?
The BS meter?
Yes. I mean, I bet you they probably had me at 92, but I'm thinking that's all a 95, really, because I thought I was bringing it. And then you fast forward to me in my 30s, and I still thought I was throwing hard, but you know, I was all about painting, you know, corners and stuff. But I probably threw 91, you know, 91, 92. Educated cheese.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah, exactly.
They told me I was 88 to 90-ish usually with my sinker, right?
Right.
94 in the All-Star game one year, and I think it was that juiced All-Star game, right? You know, like the ball. But guys that are still around that were back in the day that we played against say it was probably 91 to 93-ish now. Technology has changed enough to where the numbers would have crept up that we throw. It's interesting that you talk about painting, which I know is like your favorite word in the entire realm of words. Was it a conscious effort to paint all the time? And how often could you? If you tried to hit that down and away spot to a left-hander, how often could you get there?
Oh, all day long. All day long. The thing is, though, the older that you got, that's why I was talking about an educated fastball. The older that you got, you don't go out there coming out of your shoes. You don't.
Yeah.
You know, you use that, you know, adrenaline to focus and you know, stay focused and firm, but not out of your gourd, you know, and that's part of being able to paint.
What spot couldn't you get to?
Wow. Cross my body. And, you know, talk about a right-handed hitter. I have to go. Yeah, into a left-hander. Yes, into a left-hander. With a right-hander, I had so much confidence because I had that angle on them.
Yeah.
And if I did make a mistake, who cares? I could get away with it. But if I try to throw that ball all the way across my body to an inside part of the plate to a left-handed hitter, and then it came back over the plate, oh, they used to crush that ball.
Yeah.
But you got to get the ball in.
Got to get it in. But it's still going to
Yes, run.
Or trying to get it away to the right-hander to bring it back, which is what Maddox did. That's how Maddox made his living.
But, when you're throwing that ball, you're not telling yourself, oh, if I make a mistake here, it's going to run down the middle, even though it could come back over to the right-hander. Once again, it's
hit him. Hit him. Oh, well, darn. Sorry, hit him.
Yeah, right. So
that's the way that goes. What about with your breaking ball? And what kind of pattern did your slider have? Pattern's not the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
What kind of tunnel did your slider have? What kind of shape did it have?
Well, I'm trying to make it go down, but when you're throwing from my angle, it's easy to be flat. That flat one is so bad. But you can get away with the flat one if you take some way off of it, right? So it almost becomes a major off-speed pitch, and that's what I used to do. I kind of got underneath it a little bit, but as long as I took a lot off of it, it would beat them with the off-speed. And then my other one, I'd try to stay on top a little bit more, tighter and tighter and harder. Not a cutter. I had a hard time throwing a cutter. You know what I'm saying? Because I couldn't really get on top.
Yeah, that was going to be my next. That was going to be my next question. Our producer is John Sintas from Cutter Nation, and that's what he does, man. He just runs it this way all day. I couldn't do that. I was trying to make the ball do this. I couldn't make it do that.
Yeah, it's like Mariano, Rivera. One pitch. We watched him do it. Yeah. I was so jealous. How can you not be jealous of that? Cracking bats, left-handed hitters hitting just nubs back to the mound. It was like unbelievable.
But how could they know it was coming like that and still not be able to catch up to it?
I mean, wouldn't you bail as a left-handed hitter, know he's going to throw a cutter? But it was so late. It was so late. That's the thing.
And the look on it must have just jumped on you. And even though you knew what it was doing, it looked like something else, which is a big thing now. It's okay. I, as a pitcher, know what it's going to do. What does it look like to the hitter?
Right.
And that's where the deception is involved now, this day and age.
Yeah. I have with them knowing so much, and whether it's your pattern or tunneling your pitches, I mean, it makes it that much more difficult to pitch. And changing speeds, what we used to do, sinking the ball, changing speeds, doesn't really play right now. Wouldn't you say, Larry? I mean,
I agree. I do think there's going to come a day where we're going to say, okay, everybody's running the ball 93 to 95 to 98 or 99 up here, and hitters are going to start making that adjustment. Whether they're able to successfully make that adjustment or not is another question. Will they be able to make solid contact long enough and as many times as they need to make pitchers change what they do, to start going back to sinking and sliding?
So what happens is you're going to tell me, okay, we got all this information on your pitches and how we want you to do this. And so we're going to tell you this fastball plays here, your slider plays here. I mean, if you could change arm angles just a hair, I'm sure it's just a little tweak here and there. They're going to tell you what to do. I mean, what's going to play. And I used to think I knew what I was doing. Nobody has to tell me. I was like a feel for it. I get a feel. I feel like I could take something off right now. Don't tell me I have to do X, X, X. You know what I'm saying? Because I may have a touch right now with my breaking ball better than I have with that. So don't tell me this is a good time for breaking ball when I have no feel for it.
Right. What's working for me at the moment, especially as a starter, when you're trying to think 100 pitches out instead of the 18 that you threw as a reliever. Oh, looks like we lost Dennis Eckersley for just a moment. See if we can get him back inside here. I don't know about you guys, but this to me is fascinating. And Dennis has been a friend for a long, long time. And we used to really have a lot of great times talking pitching. And he was struggling some, and especially with injuries when we were with the Cubs. And I watched him pitch for those 7 or 8 years in the American League. And like I said, he was a guy that you hated to play against because he did have that cockiness and he would shoot you out and everything else, which is no big deal now. But back in the 70s and 80s, that was a huge deal. And you just didn't do that to opponents. And to a degree, there's still some of that going on this day. But everything changes as we go along, and you learn how to make the adjustments, or you start realizing that the bus is going to run over you if you don't get in front of it. Dennis and I have gone back and forth as I've shown him the pitchLogic baseball, and we've talked about it because he wants to, with his broadcasting job, be able to keep up with what's going on and be able to talk to guys And it gets more and more difficult to go over that barrier of what people are talking about currently and the way that we knew the game from back during the time that we played it. But there's so much information out there, and it is so easy to get it and to catch up that that everybody is able to do it. And he has jumped right in and is asking questions. And as you can see, he's a pretty energetic guy. He gets after it, as he likes to say, and he's got a lot of emotion and a lot of passion about it, which is why it was always a lot of fun playing with him. So we had a little technical glitch there. We were talking about your slider and your confidence in that and placement on that. Talk about your slider a little bit more.
Well, trying to shape your breaking ball. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. Some guys have that curveball that's there, not necessarily not necessarily a 12-6 thing, right?
Yeah.
But whatever. My problem is being flat with my slider, and I get away with it when I really take a lot off of it. On purpose.
Yeah.
Not accidentally, because it's that cement mixer, the one that just in between. The one that hasn't got enough bite on it and just enough.
Yeah, I know exactly. And you're talking about those pitches you remember.
Yeah,
ball on one plane, bat on one plane, ball on an airplane.
I think a slider like that goes
really far
than a fastball that you threw 95.
Okay, now though, except we hear guys talking about intentionally developing a gyro ball that has that kind of spin, but doesn't do the slider thing. That is almost a backup slider, is what we call it.
And I used it like for a left-handed hitter. I use it as a changeup on the outside corner, and it's spinning. So they think it's going to break, and it was just like a dead spinner that just didn't break and just died on the corner. I don't want it to break. So what
did you have to do to make it not break like that? What did you have to do to throw that?
I'd get underneath it. That index finger, not index, the other one, underneath it. I wouldn't be on top. Just a little underneath and take something off. Pull the string, literally, right?
See, mechanically, I'm not so sure you're such a great example to talk to the experts out there.
No, but my mind is telling. That's what I was thinking. Getting underneath it and really taking something off. And that's why I could have died for not necessarily a split finger, but a changeup. I needed something so desperately that I could throw a left-handed hitter that died. Faded away.
Yeah, right.
I didn't have that.
Well, I didn't either. I threw my changeup enough so that the Mel Didiers of the world out there would write in his report, "We'll throw change to right or left."
Okay.
I remember one time I struck out Eddie Murray on a changeup, and I thought, I got something here.
Yeah.
It was 440 the next time I threw it to him.
Yeah. How about when we were talking about instincts about pitching, right? And there was a time when I first came up to big league, somebody told me, just when you get 3-1, everybody's looking fastball. You throw them that batting practice fastball. How gutsy was that? And I swear to God, I'd get an out. The guy would pop it up, and I went, "God, I'm a genius." You know what I mean? But you have to have the nerve to just sort of. Whoof,
never quite had the nerve to throw the hanging slider, though, did you?
No, there's no such thing as that.
Because we know how far that those go.
Yeah.
It is a lot about selling it, and it's a lot about conviction in doing what you're doing. You also, I read that line earlier, what you said about physically being in there, and the last part of that sentence was, but to me, it's like you're being rescued when your career is over. It's like, whew, the pressure is off.
Yeah. I don't miss the pressure. I do not miss the pressure. You look back at your career, and if anybody says they have no regrets, they're full of it. I really believe that, because we all have regrets about our life, especially about our professional life. Some things you would have done different, taking care of yourself differently. But the one thing that I have that always sticks with me about regrets is that I didn't enjoy the moment. You know what I'm saying? Like the good ones. You know what I mean?
We thought we were.
I thought I did.
Yeah.
I really did. But looking back, I didn't, because it was like, especially relieving, always the next game. It's like always the next game. So I do. That's where my regrets are. Enjoying the moment, right? I mean, I've had a hard time enjoying the moment. Happiness, man. Enjoy it because sometimes it's few and far between. But
as a starting pitcher, you had those days where you knew you could take 2 days to enjoy it. And that's the lifestyle. I mean, you and I share a lot of similarities, and you've been a role model for me through the years, whether you know it or not, with the things that you've done with your personal life. It's helped me to change mine, and I appreciate that. But we thought we were enjoying it, just really weren't. And then you go over to it's just pressure every single day. Every single pitch might be. Suter said to me one time in '81, he said, if we make the World Series, I'm probably going to throw the last pitch of it one way or the other.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I tell you what, if you're fortunate enough to be in that situation too, we played a long time and I only had one world championship. Yeah. And that almost didn't happen. In '89, the 10 days in between game 2 and game 3. And so I was lucky enough to be and had the last out, to play at first base, and that's so memorable. Not so much, that my own world championship, but I grew up going to Candlestick Park, beating the Giants, which in itself, the Giants and the A's playing the World Series, unheard of, right? Yeah. And they almost didn't play anyway. We came back and I made the last out on a play to first. And I wasn't exactly the greatest fielding first, pitcher. You got to get your tail over there. And for me, the last out of the game at the World Series, and then for me to give a little pump. I mean, I was pumping guys out in the middle of the season, but that was the biggest pump of my career.
All right, so you remember that one, and a lot of memorable times in the 23 years. Like you said, a lot of the ones that you don't want to remember still keep coming back. 23 years in baseball, I know you've been asked every single question anybody could ever think of to ask you. Anything you ever wanted to say, nobody ever asked you?
I'll tell you what, doing this job, you'll think you have thought about everything, but something will pop up, right? In the middle of a broadcast or a middle of, of a bad game. And all of a sudden you go down that road going, uh-oh, what are we talking about this for?
Wish I hadn't have started this conversation.
Right. It's just not for everybody. You got to be careful.
Yeah, and Ernie Harwell told me one time, he said, just remember, there's no eraser at the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, you got that. And we all have to learn, because, everybody makes mistakes, obviously. But there's nothing like it. Larry, I'll tell you what, I try to enjoy this job now because you're lucky to have it. Yeah. But there's nothing like, you can never recreate the feeling that you have to be a major league pitcher, that with all that, all that wiredness on the mound. But the only thing that comes closest to it is live TV. It is, because you get that nervousness that you can't match. And that's, even though you hate it to be nervous, nobody really likes to be nervous. You really are alive. I mean, it's part of your senses are all there, No
question. And on the flip side, I try to explain to people sometimes that giving up a bomb is like having your pants taken down in front of 40,000 people.
Yeah, but something. Yeah, that you have to deal with failure, right? I mean, that's part of it. And a lot of kids, this cuts out a lot of the, it makes the difference between a lot of players while they play longer. You have to be able to come back from, a hitter, going 3 for 10, he's going to fail. But a pitcher, when we fail, man, it seems a lot worse, doesn't it? So you punch out with a guy on second scoring position. But if you give up a bomb, it's your fault. You lost the game. So it's
walk off.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So you have to be able to come back and dust yourself off, and not everybody could do that.
And I think in this era of where we're grooming guys to hit for showcases and pitch for numbers and everything else, I think that point is what does separate people. How do you handle the failure that comes with this? How do you pick yourself up the next time around?
Yeah, it's inevitable. You know what I mean? Not everybody's Willie Mays, Sandy Koufax, whatever. I mean, I was lucky enough to get to the Hall of Fame, but I got my lunch a lot, and I had to pick myself up a lot. I'm proud of it, but it's not an easy thing to do. And you learn from failure That's, you know what I mean? There's a lot more to be learned from failure than it is to be celebrating all the time.
Well, words of wisdom from a Hall of Famer are always good. Eck, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Always great talking to you. Let's stay in touch. And we'll be watching. We'll be checking you out when the broadcasts hopefully start here in a week or 10 days or so.
Good. Larry, enjoyed it, man. You take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Stay in touch.
Be healthy.
You got it.
All right.
See you all later.